Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I'm pretty comfortable in saying that a universal aspect of having relationships is peer pressure. Humans, we're kind of hardwired to conform. Back when we were part of tribes or clans or whatever, you needed to fit in. You needed to, not necessarily wear bell-bottom jeans or whatever was in style. Although that may have been part of it, but just to do the things that needed to be done within the group, however you want to define it. So I think peer pressure is just kind of a universal aspect of having relationships. And when we hear the word peer pressure, when I've heard the word peer pressure, I've generally thought back to my teen years. I remember, worrying about what I wore, how I looked, what I did with my hair. It may not have been, I think everybody experiences it differently. So anything I say is really from a sample size of one, but I think we all kind of dealt with that. We all worried about that. Maybe girls worried about it more than guys. I don't know. Again, all I know was going on in my head. But peer pressure is a universal aspect of being part of a group, having relationships. You want to fit in. But it doesn't go away in the teen years. It really kind of follows you through life. And I remember, in college having the same sorts of feelings of like, oh my gosh, you feel this pressure like, I should be doing this. I should be going to the bar. I should be hanging out with these people. I should be liking this. I should be, racing to go watch Hill Street Blues. That was a program that was on in the early '80s. At 9:00 on Wednesday nights or whenever it was. So there was social pressure then, and it continued on into law school and graduate business school and to a degree, I remember when I was a young professional working in the accounting firm I was a tax consultant for, what kind of suit you're wearing and, where you get your suits and, what kind of car are you driving. You need to kind of conform. You need to get a new car. You don't have automatic windows. You don't have a cell phone. Those pressures are always there. What studies have found is that, not surprisingly, that these pressures continue. But as we get older, what ends up happening is we care less and less about them. Now, I remember, it was probably about 10 years ago, I was serving on a athletic board. My kids were involved in the program. There were some decisions that need to be made, and being on the board, we needed to make decisions, and they weren't necessarily popular with everybody. There was a group of people it wasn't popular with, and I had kids. I have three kids, three great kids, and I had kids on both sides of the argument. No matter what decision I made, it was going to impact one of my kids' teams. It just. And a decision had to be made. It's just people weren't going to be happy, but that just comes with the territory of leadership. And I just remember, getting a lot of questions, having a lot of phone calls, having a lot of people email me, people on both sides of the equation, kind of putting pressure. And I don't want to say it was a horrible time because there's just a lot of horrible things that are in life, really horrible things, and on a scale of 1 to 10 of horrible things, this was probably a 1.5. But still in the moment, it was just like, oh my gosh, I got to make this decision. And I have these people putting pressure on me and these people putting pressure on me. And it doesn't matter ultimately what the decision was made. You just make the decision the best you can with the information you have. And, and you go with it. but I just remember the peer pressure that was there, and just kind of that same sort of feeling that you had back in high school and college is, geez, I kind of want to fit in, but I don't know. So peer pressure is really part of, again, I call it a universal aspect of relationships. It's just part of, it's part of what you need to deal with. But there's research out there that really gets into how long that social pressure lasts. And in the moment, when you're in that moment, when you're thinking back into high school, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have a cool kid shirt, or I'm not doing whatever. You're thinking like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. How am I going to survive this? Um, but there are studies out there that shows that that pressure doesn't last forever. One particular study, what they did was they had the participants were asked to judge the attractiveness of other people. They showed them pictures, but before each judgment, what they were given an average rating or purported average rating, likely made up, for that particular individual. And these were people that they didn't know. They were just faces, pictures that they were given. And they were given, before you look at this next picture and rate it, this is what your social group rated it. Other people were rated them. And it was, I guess, rated by 200 other students. Um, and then what they had the participants do is return to the lab 3 days later, 7 days later, 3 months later after the first session, and basically re-rate people um, without that group rating, without knowing what the others had done. Um, and what they found is that after 3 days, the effect was still there, that social pressure. In other words, oh, I'm rating this picture, but this is what everyone else is rating, so I'm going to base my rating on what everyone else is rating them. Everyone else is saying this is a 6, so I'll say 6, or I'll say 6.5, but I'll be in that, I'll be right there in that range. 3 days later, seeing that same picture, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's still a 6, right? 7 days later, it was gone. 3 months later, it was definitely gone. Um, and so, what that shows us is that, yes, well, we know there's peer pressure, right? It doesn't show us that there's peer pressure. We know there's peer pressure, and we know that it does influence us. I've done other podcasts and other episodes, and I've analogized it to the gravitational pull of stars, and we're kind of orbiting around the sun, or planets orbit around one another, and there's this influence amongst bodies in space. And so we know that there's this social pressure out there, but if we're able to kind of remove ourselves from that pressure, in time, that peer pressure kind of goes away. And I'm not suggesting that you alienate people, but I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of stepping back and getting away from the situation and really having a heart-to-heart with yourself. And just, okay, you know what, I know these other people are out there, and this is what other people are feeling, but let me get away from that and let me feel what I feel. Let me be true to what my feelings are. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, as much as other people are pulling on you, you're pulling on them too. So if you're in their mind, if somebody's a 6, but in your mind they're an 8, you stepping forward, and I say, well, and I don't want to go just entirely on attractiveness and looks, but hey, this particular candidate is an 8. They check a lot of the boxes we need, and other people are saying, well, it's a 6. They're not wrong. You're not right. The truth maybe lies somewhere in the middle, or maybe it's lower than 6 or higher than 8. I don't know. But being true to yourself and being true to what you feel, you just need to say, okay, I think it's an 8. And that is likely going to have influence on people as well. So again, we have this as we network with people. We have these peer pressures. You go to networking events, there are pressures. Who you're talking to, who you're seen with, types of conversations you have or don't have. Those pressures are out there, and we're going to be subject to them. But we have the ability to, one, remove ourselves from those things, and two, we have the ability to be an influence on others as well. And when it comes to building relationships and building your network, it's, knowing that you have influence is an important aspect. Certainly people are going to do things to you, but know that you have the ability to skew things your way, or how you feel, or what you believe the situation should be, even if it's bell-bottom jeans.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.